Hello, I'm DelusionDispeller, and I'm going to talk to you about the depressive side of uh, manic depressive disorder, or in other words, bipolar. Sorry, I lost my train of thought there for a moment. I'm really looking forward to this particular video because it has a lot of interesting information about depressive symptoms. Some that I really wasn't aware of were part of depression. As I said in my other video, I have cyclothymic disorder symptoms. I struggle with that disorder. Um, Mine last about at 30-day intervals, more or less. So they go a long time. The first half of the month, I'm very mellow, kind of laid back. Things don't really bother me. Second part of the month, I'm a little bit more feisty, more touchy, um, kind of hyped up a little bit, very creative in the second part of the month. Um, but I don't exhibit any of the extremes in mood that cause people to think that you're a little bit psychotic or something like that. So, just to kind of give you a little idea of my experience with bipolar disorder. Okay, let's talk about what is involved in a major depressive episode. First of all, it's a persistent thing, so it's almost all the time. Feelings of deep sadness, feelings of anxiety, worry, guilt, anger, rage, isolation, like feeling very lonely. I remember I had a lot more of the depressive symptoms when I was younger than I have now. I really don't get depressed very often, but I definitely get to a point of just where things don't really matter to me. Hopelessness, disturbance in your sleep or in your appetite. A lot of people that are depressed are sleep deprived. They can't get to sleep or they can't stay asleep. Some of them sleep too much because they're so depressed they just don't want to wake in the morning. Appetite, it could be an increase or a decrease in appetite. And that's one thing I did not know. I had heard of people losing weight when they were bipolar, but I didn't know that you actually would overeat if you're bipolar, and I do go through that. And also, I didn't know that you could crave certain things. Like, I'll go through this thing where I crave carbs. Any kind of carb. Macaroni, lasagna, ravioli. Not bread so much, but carbohydrates. Sometimes even potatoes. Um, I don't really crave desserts, but I like desserts. And I would assume that I eat most of my desserts in the second half of the month. I have heard that people that are in the depressive mode, that's when they tend to gain or to lose the weight. For me, I think it's in my manic mode that I tend to want to overeat more. I have to really watch that. So far, well, I do pretty good, but I'm not where I want to be with that. Okay, fatigue, just being tired all the time, drained, just worn out. Now be careful because this can also be a symptom of other things like hypothyroidism, which I also have, by the way. Apparently, adrenal fatigue tends to run in my family, and we all kind of got it in different ways. Like for me, it's my thyroid. For my cousin, I think it was her adrenal glands, maybe, and she has a disorder where she will always be very, very short. They think that some of our growth was stunted because of the adrenal fatigue and the adrenal problems. I don't know. I don't think there's been enough research done to really depict that. But my point is, just because you're exhausted does not necessarily mean you're bipolar. So be careful about making that assumption. Usually there's a loss of the enjoyment of the activities that you normally enjoyed. All of a sudden, you don't want to go hang out with your friends at the movies. You don't feel like going over to your best friend's house and, playing a board game. You don't really want to play with your children or hang out with your husband or your wife. I went through that, definitely, where I just didn't feel like doing anything. I just was kind of bummed out. That's a sign of bipolar depression. Problems concentrating. That is definitely one I run into, and I have to be careful with that because I am studying to get my master's degree in psychology. So I have to capitalize on those moments where my concentration is at its highest, which for me is in the morning time. I am no good at night. You call me or contact me at 8 o'clock or 8:30, you're going to get somebody that talks very slow and sluggish, is very tired, and just looking for the bed. So, yeah, I can't stay up all hours of the night like I used to do when I was a kid, and I definitely cannot concentrate at that hour. Loneliness. Definitely something I went through as a child. I remember just sitting and crying for hours at a time, laying in puddles of my own tears on my basement floor because I was just so depressed all the time and lonely. Felt like I didn't have a friend in the world. And I just couldn't cope with life very well. And that's why a lot of bipolars tend to try to commit suicide, which I also have been through. Self-loathing, hating yourself. Yeah, I used to beat myself with belt buckles, like take the strap of a belt and just whip myself on the back. I just hated myself. I loathed myself. My mom probably doesn't even know that I used to do that, but yeah, I used to beat on myself because I felt like I was such a worthless, useless human being, and I had a dad that was mentally ill, which made things even worse because I was told I was pretty useless. And so, yeah, that's what I did. Some people cut. Bipolars will cut themselves sometimes. So will borderlines, but bipolars do too. A lot of them have addictions, smoking, drinking, drugs, that kind of thing. Apathy, just not caring about things. Just, yeah, whatever. You know, just apathetic. Just don't give a rip. Indifference, same thing. Just you really don't care about anything or anyone. Depersonalization. To me, what this means is it's kind of like an out-of-body experience. Like you see something happening to yourself, but it's not, you don't feel it like it's you. It's like you're watching it happen on a movie screen or happen in front of you, but it's really not you. You don't feel those feelings. So it's kind of like, yeah, you step out of your body. It's kind of a weird, scary kind of feeling. I don't like the feeling of depersonalization. Um, Loss of interest in sexual activity. We did talk about that on the other tapes, but yes, you can have a hyper sex drive. You can also have a loss of sex drive if you are bipolar, especially during your bipolar depression mode. Shyness. You're just very shy around people. You're nervous around people. Kind of almost phobic a little bit. Social anxiety. Same type of thing. You don't want to be around crowds. You prefer to stay to yourself. That kind of thing. Irritability, just increased anger. Everything irritates you. Everything bothers you. Every little noise bugs you. I don't like repetition. That's one of the things about me. If I hear a song and it's repeating over and over again, I want to scream, please turn that song off. Just make it stop. I cannot handle repetitive anything. I don't like repetitive talk. I don't like repetitive songs. The only repetition I can handle is if I'm learning a language, you have to repeat it to learn the words. Or if it's like a worship song, sometimes I can handle it repeated a few times, but if they keep going on and on and on, like some people call it soaking music, if it goes on to the point where it's the same words over and over again, I gotta leave the room. I can't handle it. So I'm pretty sure that's part of the bipolar. I call it a sensory issue situation. Just like some people can't eat certain food textures, I kind of have that a little bit. I know I have a daughter that does not like anything touching. Anything on her plate cannot be touching, or she just cannot handle it. That might be a little bit of obsessive compulsive disorder too, and I am sure that I have signs of that because I had a dad that was OCD, and you do pick up on some of that thing from being raised in it for 10 years. Okay, the next thing. Chronic pain without or with a known cause. Many bipolar people have a lot of pain. They can have headaches. I know I grew up having constant migraines. Just pain, pain, pain. Jaw problems. I have TMJ that I battle even now. TMD, I guess you call it. Temporomandibular joint disorder. And it's very painful. Extremely painful. And it does have a cause. The cause was I used to grit my teeth so hard as a child because I was so upset all the time that I threw my jaw out of alignment. So now I have pain. A lack of motivation. You just don't feel like doing anything. You just want to stay in bed all day or just sit around. And you just don't know what you want to do. You just don't care. Suicidal ideation. That means you sit and you think about ways you're going to kill yourself. You fantasize about it, and you picture what it would be like, and you picture people mourning your death or saying things about you. Or I used to do that. It was very scary. When you get to a point where life is so hard, you can't figure out a reason why you want to live, that's suicidal ideation. Very dangerous. If you know anybody that does that, you need to report it immediately and get them some help. In severe cases of bipolar disorder or manic depression, the person can become psychotic and have psychosis, which means they might have some very fantastical ideas that they start talking about. I mentioned in the other video that a person might say, Angelina Jolie has called me up and we're going on a date on Friday night at 7 o'clock. And then she's going to take me back to her house and make me macaroni and cheese dinner, and then we're going to have some ice cream, and she's going to introduce me to her husband and her kids and her grandmother. I mean, just weird stuff like that. Psychosis, things that don't make sense. Delusions, hallucinations are also part of bipolar at times. And with a manic depressive episode, they usually last about 2 weeks. They can continue for over 6 months if they're not treated. Do I think that medicine is the only way to treat bipolar? It depends on the type of bipolar you have, how long you've had it, the type of personality you have normally, how well you cope with stresses in your life, how well you're coping with the disorder. As I said, I have bipolar disorder. I have cyclothymic mood disorder, which is also a form of bipolar. But I can tell you when my episodes are happening. Right now, I can tell that I am not in a hypomanic mode. I'm talking very clearly. I'm talking very slowly and carefully. By the end of the month, if I make a video, you will notice I talk super fast. Sometimes I don't make a lot of sense. I'll say things so fast that they'll overlap other things, and I'll notice this. Like, I'll be on the phone with my mom, and my mom will say, "You seem a little bit manic. Why are you talking so loud? You need to slow down. You're talking too fast." It's noticeable in a bipolar person. And it's noticeable to me. So I know that when that end of the month happens, I'm going to start thinking very quickly and maybe not always processing those thoughts. So I'll act impulsively without thinking before I do things. So I know not to make major decisions at the end of the month. I know to save those till I'm in a more mellow, stable mode. I do not take medicine for my bipolar disorder. I did take medicine at one point. The doctor said, as far as he was concerned, the major parts of it are dealt with, and as long as I know when things are going to happen in my brain and I can feel like I can handle it, then I'm fine. So no, I don't take medicine in case anybody wonders, and I don't intend on taking medicine unless at some point the bipolar goes into something that's unhandleable. I cannot live a life where I'm going to feel suicidal all the time, and I don't feel like that anymore. I'm very, very happy a lot of the time. I don't have depressive modes. I can't remember the last time I was depressed, to be honest with you. I just get mellow and hyper creative at times, but nothing detrimental. And I was reading about hypomania versus mania, and hypomania does not cause a person to lose a job, to walk out of school, to be irrational to the point where people can't deal with them. Not usually. Mania does, but hypomania not so much. It's not as detrimental to the lifestyle of a person as the mania, the full-blown mania is. So there really is no reason for me to be on medicine unless my symptoms somehow get worse, or I become a danger to myself or to others around me, and I just don't have that form of bipolar. So I'm not really worrying about that. I also am a Christian, and I know the Word of God really well, and I hide it in my heart, and I use scriptures to help me through things when I get stressed out. I know that God is my source to overcome things. So everybody does it differently. That's my way of living my life, and I'd be happy to talk to anybody that wants to talk to me more about bipolar disorder. But that is the manic and the depressive modes of bipolar. If you have any questions, any comments, anything you want to share about your own experience, please do. You can reach me at DelusionDispeller@gmail.com. Thank you so much for watching, and have a great day. God bless you.